I'm back for the final video in the series, and we're going to be talking about high-end phones, and this one is very, very easy. There is really no need to waste too much of your time here. I started this series talking about low-end smartphones, and I divided them into two. That's the entry level and the budget phones, and I said that the entry level phones are smartphones that are entry level. They offer the basic functionalities and usually nothing else. And then I also talked about the budget phones. Both of them are in the same video. Budget phones, how they are a step above the entry level phones and how they offer more functionality. The entry level phones, they offer you the full version of Android. They offer you full social media access, full Facebook, the WhatsApp, full TikTok. Not instead of TikTok Lite, you get the full TikTok, you get Snapchat, you get Instagram, where entry-level phones wouldn't give you. Entry-level phones wouldn't give you Instagram, entry-level phones would give you Snapchat, and definitely wouldn't give you the full version of Android. They give you 32-bit Android. So I think that's even a topic I may make for another video, but that one's an aside. Entry-level phones can't play high-definition 3D games. Budget phones can play high-definition 3D games at low settings. When we say high definition 3D games, we're talking about games like PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, eFootball, and so on. Right, so those ones are entry level and budget phones. And then we also moved on to talk about mid-range phones, and then you talked about the different levels of the mid-range, how there's lower mid-range, there's upper mid-range, there's premium mid-range, and how mid-range is not mid-range, and how companies try to deceive people and tell them that this one is mid-range without specifying which part of the mid-range is coming from, which SoC is inside, and etc, etc, etc. So that one is another I've done videos about them, so you should please check those ones out. Today I want to talk about the high end. Now basically we've moved from low end to mid-range, and now we're all the way up here. We're at the high end. So basically when you hear the term high end refers to the highest level of specifications and functionalities that a smartphone can offer. The very top, the best. That's basically what high-end phones are. High-end phones are at the usually close to the bleeding edge of technology, the best that the technology has to offer for the customer side. Now, I'm sure they still have stuff that they are working on, they are fine-tuning in the background, but this is the one they have to offer to you, the customers. And it's usually divided into two. You've got Flagship and you've got Flagship Lite or Flagship Killers. I think sometimes there is actually a clear distinction between Flagship Lite and Flagship Killers, and we're going to get into all that. But I want us to start with flagships. When you hear the term flagship has been routinely abused by a lot of companies. Yes, it has. And there was a debate about 4 years ago on a Nigerian forum called Nairaland, where some companies brought out a phone with Helio P35 and a fake 64MP camera, which they did not advertise until we called their attention to it. And then they went running around, trying to do some damage control, right? And they said that phone is a flagship. And there was war in the comments. There was no, seriously, it was war. I mean, somebody, I think it's Jesus HV Rita, that was his moniker. He went all the way to Sony, sent them multiple emails and they refused to reply. And they said, hey, Sony, did you sell 64MP cameras to these guys? And Sony were like, we don't want to comment on this matter. We don't want to. So they predicated their argument, or they justified their argument by stating that a company's best phone is its flagship, and so therefore a Helio P35 phone, being that company's best phone, is a flagship device. And so whilst for the sake of semantics, whilst that argument is very correct, and it is, for the sake of semantics, contextually speaking, when you want to bring it into broader context, for smartphones in general, when we talked about smartphones in general, removing company barriers, we're talking about all smartphones now. We're not referring to smartphones from a specific company, all smartphones right now. the best smartphones that the industry has to offer are what we call flagships. And just because that definition, the best, a certain space or a certain body or a certain agency or a certain anything has to offer, because it falls into the company box. So therefore, a company can come outside and market their phone as a flagship. Doesn't necessarily make it correct when you want to look at the bigger picture and want to bring in context into it. Because I see there are many people who will argue me down till tomorrow and say, Jeffrey, flagship phones are flagship phones because the definition is, yes, I get it. I do. But when we're talking about like Android wide, smartphone wide, and the best phones that come out of this industry, the best products that come out are what we refer to as flagships, and therefore the flagship phones are the best phones in the market. So a company's best phone that is not the best phone in the market, to me, is not a flagship. It's that company's flagship, but it cannot be considered as a smartphone flagship because it doesn't fit the bill. It still amazes me that at this level I still have to explain these things, and I'm sure people will disagree, and it's fine. I'm looking forward to hearing such disagreements. I actually welcome them so long as they're done respectfully, otherwise I block. That's just it. So let's move on. So the best phones that are available on the market, and that's where you see the Apples of this world and the Xiaomis of this world with their Xiaomi phones, and then you see the Samsungs with their Galaxy S series of this world, the OnePluses of this world, and so on and so forth. Those are like the very best phones that money can buy. They offer you the best of everything. There is nothing that you can think of that is available to smartphones now that these phones cannot do. But you're going to sell body parts. Yeah, like it was a popular story at the time. There was a guy who sold the body parts to buy an iPhone, and then the next one came out in about 6 months time, and yeah, she happens. It actually does. So yeah, that's mostly that. Let's move on. Let's talk about. So I mean, basically, when you hear the term flagship, that's the best phones in the market, the very best ones in the market. If some people are trying to present a company's phone as a flagship, you tell them that is that company's flagship, not for the general, because you cannot bring a low-level phone, a phone that is essentially a budget phone, and then hold it up to compete with the iPhones and the Samsungs and the Xiaomis of this world. It is just disingenuous at best. It's even terrible marketing if you ask me. But anyway, let's put that aside. Let's talk about the next level. Let's talk about the flagship lite and the flagship killer. Now, flagship lite phones are phones that are meant to give you the feeling of using a flagship phone. These are all high-end phones, mind you, but they want you to feel among, to use a Nigerian slang, to what's the latest flagship out there? I mean, people are using the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max. Well, here is an iPhone 15, just to feel as if you are part of the crew, kind of. Like, yes, high-end phone, but it's not the bleeding edge. It's not at the very tippy top. It's maybe a step or two below the top. They're basically called flagship lights. So if you see, most of the time when a smartphone brings out a new series, a flagship series of phones, the vanilla one, the lowest one at that level, when you see, for example, the S24, the S24 Plus, like that, S24 Ultra. So the S24 Plus and the S24, the basic S24, we call those flagship lights. Yeah. And then you then have what are called flagship killers. Flagship killers are not exactly flagships. They are not exactly flagships, but boy, do they come close in terms of performance. They are again, just like flagship-like devices, they are a step. Okay, let's say they are 2 or 3 steps below the main flagship, but you can get really good performance. Right, like in last year 2023, now those of us who bought the Poco F5 got really, really good performance. But now with the release of the Poco X6, F6, and other new SoCs that came out, the the 8s Gen 3, the 7 Plus Gen 3. You know, now we know that, okay, yes, we are at premium mid-range level. Thank you. But for a time, we got really good performance. I think even before the F5 and the other phones came outside, we had the F3, F4 with Snapdragon 870 that also offered really good performance, but that's just about that. So flagship phones and at least, you know, the flagship Lite is usually part of the flagship series, but it's a step below, you know, to keep people at an affordable flagship. Yeah, but flagship killers are just, you know, are even more affordable, and they're like, you know, give these people a run for their money. You know, push performance as much as you can, as far as you can. But these are not necessarily flagships, but they are really high-end phones, and they're really high-performing smartphones. So these phones all cost a lot of money. Usually the flagship killers are the cheapest, are the more affordable. Okay, not cheapest, they're the more affordable. And then, you know, flagship Lite devices are you know, just there. They are the more affordable of the flagships, and then the flagship cost you a pretty penny. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. So yeah, SoCs, you know, top of them now, you know, the A17 Pro, A18 that's coming up later on this year. You've got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and the 8 Gen 4 is coming up as well. Dimensity 9300, 9300 plus, and you know, stuff like that. And then you come down and then you see the 8s Gen 3, the older flagships all the way up to the 8 Gen 2. Should, if you're interested in these things, I have an article up there, top 100 smartphone SoCs. You Google that and you see that I have neatly arranged all of this stuff there. So you just go there and then you just find the information and help yourself. Yeah, so with that, we've come to the end of this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Small actions like this that help small channels like mine grow, right? Thank you very much for coming, and I'll see you in the next one.